Hey guys, this is Craig, and I used to do the podcast Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio with Derek Asgar, and I've had a lot of people reaching out to me on when we're going to start the podcast up, and I haven't heard from Derek in about 8 months, and I spent about an hour today trying to figure out. I know you can do podcasts on YouTube, but I found out that you have to have a computer to do it. And my MacBook Pro went on the blitz about 2 years ago, so I'm into iPads and iPhones, and I was trying to figure out a way to use the iPhone or the iPads, and it seems like I have to do if I don't use YouTube, then I have to pay to have all these, platforms, to put it on. So I may just do regular YouTube videos, and just call them vlogs or kind of like a podcast. And uh, I started metal detecting in 1986, and I'd been a track star and a 5.5 tennis player, and I had tennis business, and also had metal detecting business. I was a Tesoro dealer, and I've had many experiences, and I've known a lot of the veterans of metal detecting, and quite a few of them have died in the last few years that I knew, and I decided to do. I'll go ahead and do one today, and if you see my shirt, it says Bull Run, and I believe it was in the early '90s, maybe mid '90s. I was at the Northern Virginia Relic Hunters Club, which is the largest and oldest relic hunting club in the United States, and I haven't been back there in a while because they switched locations, and then I moved to Middletown, so it's about 60 miles to get there and another 60 to get back, and so I decided to give some of my experiences, and uh, one day when I was at the club meeting, I was kind of near the door, and I saw several women come in the door, and I started talking to them, and it turned out they were archaeologists, and they had a they had been given a dig at the Manassas battlefield, and it was right at the stone house. And if you're a Yankee, you call it Bull Run. If you're a Confederate, it's first and second Manassas. But if you look at the stone house, there's a cannonball actually embedded in, and I think it's been stolen several times, and then they cemented it in. But the archaeologists told us that there was going to be a parking lot put in, so they were uh, brought in to collect artifacts out of the parking lot, and so I was talking to them, and they said that they did 500 test holes, and each head test hole was in a grid, and it was a foot by foot by foot deep, and they sifted all the dirt, and they got I believe, two mini balls. That was it, and so they were asking me if I thought anything else was there, and I said that's where Stonewall Jackson got his name, Stonewall, and he routed the Union Army there, and the Union soldiers, fled toward Washington D.C. down, I believe it was 17 or one of those roads. I can't remember which one it was, but it led toward Arlington and D.C. And it took the soldiers. Some of the soldiers didn't get back to D.C. for 3 days, and he basically routed the whole army there. And so I told him, I said, there's got to be a lot of stuff there. I mean, it's got to be loaded. And I said, you know, you didn't use metal detectors, did you? And they go, no. And so uh, they had a sign up, and so I signed up, and I went out there. And when I got there, I noticed Mike O'Donnell, who I knew for many years, and metal detected Howard Peck, and I metal detected with him, and both of them are now dead. And he was hated by the Park Service, and the archaeologists didn't like him too much. And he wrote a lot of books on artifact hunting and relics and different things like that. And I got a bunch of his books, they're pretty good. And so Park Service did not like Mike at all, and neither did the archaeologists. And so they said that when we got there, they said that some of the people could kind of freelance and just search around, and then they needed somebody to work the grid that they had dug. So I volunteered for that. I wanted to be with the archaeologists and talk to them. So anyway, after I searched a couple, I probably searched about 10, maybe 20 feet, and I got this strange signal. And at the time, I was using the Tesoro Toltec 100. I was a dealer for Tesoro for many years, and also sold, used, and all kinds of other. I used to do trades and stuff, and I've owned 49 metal detectors over the years. My newest one is the Tersace MTD 8000, which has got two different ground balances. And but anyway, I checked this one signal, and I thought it was one of the strangest signals I'd heard. It was like stuttery, but it was repeatable, and it wasn't smooth. But every time I went over it, any direction, it made like this stuttery signal, exactly the same each time. And I was thinking, man, this is something really deep. And I was thinking, man, it's probably, it could be a cannonball maybe. So anyway, I told them where to dig, and so they started digging, and they got down, a foot, and I checked the signal, and I said, no, it's still in there. And they got down to 2 feet, and they said they weren't going to dig anymore, that it was an anomaly. And I said, no, it isn't. So I hit the machine in all metal, and it went off. And I said, there's something down there. And I didn't tell them what I thought it was. And so anyway, they didn't want to dig anymore. So I said, give me the shovel and I'll dig it. So then they said, oh, no, we'll keep digging. So I got down almost 3 feet deep, and they took all the dirt out of the hole. And I looked down the hole, and I saw a round rust spot in the bottom of the hole. And I thought, oh my God. And so I reached down in there, and I was able to grab a hold of it. And I started shaking it, and I pulled up a parrot shell, which is an artillery shell. And when I pulled it out of the ground, I said, look, it's a parrot shell. And they go, it's a parrot what? And I said, it's not a bird, it's an artillery shell. So they go, how do you know that? And I go, how come you don't? I said, look at it. Doesn't it look like an artillery shell? And if you looked at the tip where the fuse was, the fuse had been damaged, or it had not gone off like it had supposed to have gone off. And it was actually a little bit bent, but the rest of the shell was in perfect shape. So it was pretty funny. I kind of turned around. They let me, hold the shell for a while, So I looked around and I saw Mike O'Donnell, and I kind of waved with my hand with my back to them, and was holding the shell toward him. And his eyes popped out of his head, and he had cameras, and he started taking some pictures real quick, and that's what I wanted him to get the opportunity to to do that. And so anyway, I'd searched a bunch of more holes, and I found one. I think I found two mini balls that they dug past that were in the wall, and so at lunchtime they had this big tent and everything, and it was probably about 10 archaeologists there. So they invited me over, and I didn't have anything to eat, so they said they would share with me. And we sat there, and they got in a circle basically around me and started quizzing me. And I have a degree from George Washington University, so I'm not stupid. And I told them, they were saying, how do you know all this stuff? And I said, I read a lot. I said, I've had people tell me I read too much, and I like to research a lot of stuff, and especially if you're in the hobby of metal detecting, you got to become a researcher to, find spots, make sure you're getting the right machines you want, identifying the artifacts. So, I basically started schooling them on, how they weren't, what they were doing wasn't good. I mean, it was kind of wasteful what they were doing. And I said, you guys need help, and I said, there's plenty of guys here, myself included. We've been in this hobby for a while, and, we basically, know the machines. We know, how to, we go out every weekend pretty much, for years, and we've learned through experience. And there's no real course in how to be a relic hunter. You just got to kind of go out there and start doing it. And over the years, you get to be a little bit better at it. But anyway, after all this was said and done, and we left, they came to the club a couple weeks later, and they were so excited. And they had, because of all the stuff that they found. Oh, I don't know if I said it, but our club found 1,080 artifacts in the same area that they found the two bullets. And I mean, it was shocking to them. They just couldn't believe it. And so they ended up coming to the club, and they wanted volunteers. They got a grant, and they were going to be taking people out with metal detectors onto the battlefield. And I think this went on for a couple of years, maybe. And the cool thing was there was several misconceptions of the battle, where the troops were and things like that the archaeologists were able to correct, the history. One of them was they were walking along and they found all these Confederate bullets in a line in one Georgia button, and the Georgia guys weren't supposed to be in that area. They were supposed to be about half a mile or a mile away, and so the guy says, well, I mean, this is pretty much, proof that they weren't a mile and a half away. They were right here. And I can't remember what the other one was, but it was fairly significant. It actually was, cleared up some things about the battlefield that weren't right, and corrected them. So they were very excited about that. And I don't know how long they kept bringing out tours of people to metal detect, and I never went out with them on the battlefield itself. I was working, and I had a tennis business and a metal detecting business at the same time. So I thought that was that was a pretty good little story to tell for my first podcast vlog. So give me your comments, guys, and tell me what you think. Should you want to hear more stories? And I got a lot of them. I've been metal detecting for 37 years, and so Tell me what you think in the comments below, and give me a like and a subscribe. All right, guys, thank you.